Okay, everybody, welcome back to the lecture. It's a continuation of part one, replacement costs and coinsurance. Just to briefly recap, I went over the methods of evaluating property, and replacement cost is one of the methods. And replacement cost is what we kind of focused on. So the replacement cost value is the value that would be used to replace an asset without deduction or depreciation, and is based on how much it would cost to replace the asset with comparable materials. We talked about a home that had a replacement cost of $200,000, and if there were total loss to that home, you insured it for $200,000, you would receive a claim amount of $200,000 to replace the home and fix the damages. But if you didn't insure it for the full replacement cost, it would only pay a claim for what you insured it for. So if the replacement cost was $200,000 and you only insured the home for $150,000, there was a total loss on the home, you would only get $150,000 since that's all it was insured for. Okay, now the coinsurance clause deals with partial losses. It determines how much of a claim would be paid out for a partial loss if you did not carry a sufficient amount of insurance on your asset. So let's take a house for instance. A full loss on a home is if the house were fully damaged. If the entire house burnt down, then that is a full loss and they're going to pay whatever you insured it for at replacement cost value. A partial loss is if there was just damage to a part of the home, then the claim is not going to be as much as the full amount. So how much of the claim is going to be paid out for a partial loss? So then we get into the coinsurance clause. This clause requires the insured to carry at least 80% of the replacement cost coverage on their property so that partial losses would be paid in full. If the insured carries less than 80% of the replacement cost coverage, then there is a coinsurance penalty and a partial loss would not be paid in full. So the formula for determining the amount paid for a penalty is the formula that you're looking at now. So did over should times the claim will equal the amount paid out for the claim. Did is the amount that you did insure the property for. And then the should is what you should have insured the property for. And you should have insured it for at least 80% of the replacement costs times a claim. So the claim is the amount of damage that you suffered for a partial loss. Okay, so let me just kind of go over this in a little bit more detail. Okay, so the coinsurance clause, let me start off with an illustration of the house, of course. So that's my house. And there is a partial loss to the house. So all this part has been damaged. And it is going to cost $50,000 to fix those damages. Okay? $50,000. So the claim is for $50,000. And what we want to know, or what we already know, is going to be the replacement cost value of the home. The replacement cost value of the home we determined was $200,000. Okay? And in order to do the formula, we need to find out did over should times the claim. So we got the claim, we have the replacement cost. We did insure it for $150,000, right? We should have insured it for 80%, at least 80% of the replacement cost. So how do we find out what 80% of 200 is? We just multiply that by 0.80, and that will give us 80%. So 80% of 200 is 160,000. So we should have insured it for at least 160,000. So let me stop here. If we would have insured our home at a replacement cost of 160,000, then we wouldn't even have to do the formula for coinsurance because the insurance claim would be paid out in full, 100%, $50,000. But since we did not insure it for at least $160,000 or more up to 200,000, then now we have to do the did over should times the claim to determine how much the insurance company is going to pay of this claim. So we did insure it for $150,000, right? We should have insured it for $160,000 times the claim of $50,000. Excuse my handwriting. So 150,000 divided by 160,000 comes out to 0.9375 times the $50,000 claim. I'll just bring that down, $50,000. And with my calculator, I will determine that 0.9375 times $50,000 comes out to $46,875. So of this $50,000 claim, the insurance company will pay $46,875. The difference of $3,125. This is the amount the insurance did not pay for. So this is called the co-insurance penalty. Okay, so did over should times the claim equals the amount that the insurance company pays for. So we did insure it for $150,000. Should have insured it for at least $160,000, and the claim was $50,000. So if we put the formula together, we're going to get paid out $46,875 instead of $50,000 to fix a partial claim. So if you were insured at least 80% of the home, so if you, instead of $150,000, if you insured it for $160,000, then 100% of the claim would be paid. Make sense? Okay, let's try another one. So let's say, let me do my house again. This one looks a little bit better. Put a door and a window there. So let's say the replacement cost of my home, because it looks a little bit better, was $325,000. And there was a partial claim to the home. All this part was damaged, and it was going to cost $100,000 to replace. Okay? That is the claim. That's what we're going to file a claim for. What we did insure it for is, we'll say we insured it for $200,000. Okay, so this is really all the information that you need to figure out the coinsurance. You need the replacement cost. So usually the questions that you'll get, it'll tell you what the replacement cost is, it'll tell you what you did insure it for, and it'll tell you what the claim is. And then you can do the rest to figure out with the formula. So we know the did is $200,000, right? We did insure it for $200,000, but we should have insured it for at least 80%. And some people get this should have confused and they put the replacement cost. It's not the replacement cost amount. It's 80% of the replacement cost. And that is going to be 80% is 325 times 0.80, because decimals 0.80 is the same as 80%, comes out to $260,000. That means we should have insured it for at least $260,000. $260,000. And then we multiply it by the claim, which in this case is $100,000. And this is how you do the formula, right? Did over should times the claim. So $200,000 over $260,000, if we round that out, will be 0.769 in decimals, and then you just multiply it by the claim. So we're just going to bring that claim here down. And that, with my calculator, of course, equals $76,000, $76,900 to be exact. This means that since we did not insure the home for at least 80% of the replacement cost value, we are not going to get 100% of the claim. We're only going to get $76,900 to pay off the damages. The rest is up to us. Okay. The coinsurance penalty is the difference between the two, the difference from the 100, which is $23,100. This is what was not paid because we didn't insure it for at least 80%, which is the coinsurance percentage. So in order to have sufficient coverage, we should insure our home at least 80%, if not 100%, but 80%. So just to go over this again, the coinsurance is only for partial claims. If it was a total loss, then it's only going to pay out what you did insure it for. If it's a partial claim, then you could do the formula to figure out how much of that partial claim is going to be paid out because you didn't insure it for at least 80%. And if you insured it for at least 80%, then you're going to get 100% of that partial claim. Okay, so I hope that this helps you. If you have any questions, go ahead and email me and I'll try to answer back as soon as possible. And if this helped, go ahead and hit like, please, or subscribe to my channel. I've noticed that I'm getting a lot of subscribers lately, so thank you guys for that. And once again, my name is Rebecca and I am your insurance lady.